Hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today we are back with episode 105 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We are lucky enough this time also to be in person, just like last time. Today we are talking about the mid-season episodes of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2, The Clone Conspiracy, and Truth and Consequences. Two episodes that I think we are both very excited to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should just get into it. In Clone Conspiracy, we open on Coruscant at the Clone Bar 79s, where two clone troopers, Cade and Slip, are talking about being on Kamino when they were given the order to destroy where they were created, their home on Kamino. Cade reveals to Slip that he contacted Admiral Rampart about this to come clean about it. Obviously, Rampart has no such intentions of doing so, so he sends an assassin to kill Cade, which works. Slip escapes, and then comes into contact with Senator Riyo Chuchi of Pantora, who has decided to take up the mantle and fight for clone rights now that this defense recruitment bill, which is supposed to create a new army for the Empire in light of the destruction of the Kaminoan bases, were recruited from conscripts, but she wants the Empire to consider the clones' needs, which they seem interested in doing on the surface, but really they have no intent of entertaining. However, so this assassin is still chasing Slip because he knows of what really happened on Kamino. So Slip goes to meet a contact. Chuchi follows him. Unfortunately, Slip dies in the attempt, and Chuchi meets with his contact, Captain Rex, who she knew from many years ago when they fought together on the moon of Orto-Plutonia. Dear God, Orto-Plutonia. Rex reveals that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. And they managed to incapacitate the assassin, who is revealed to be another clone who all traces of his identification have been completely wiped. He is classified by StarWars.com as Clone X.
Is it Sniper X?
Clone X.
Clone X. Okay.
Clone X.
X.
Then Clone X realizes he's captured and then activates the electrocutor thingy from the Eris in his mouth to kill himself to stop any more information from being revealed, and that's where we end the Clone Conspiracy.
Yes, and then we pick right up again. Sorry. In Truth and Consequences, we open with the Bad Batch. They are contacted by Rex, says they have an urgent mission on Coruscant. So they travel aboard the Marauder. In the Marauder to Coruscant, where they meet up with Rex and Riyo Chuchi. And they show them Clone X, saying that someone is out to get them and someone wants to silence this information from coming out. So Chuchi explains the situation to them with Rampart. And then Omega gets a tour of the Senate from Riyo Chuchi. They're walking around. They actually bump into Rampart again, doing whatever nefarious things he's doing. They actually show Omega the Galactic Senate chamber, which is quite cool. So then, but they're trying to find information to stop the bill from being passed. They run into Bail Organa, and Bail Organa tells them that they should talk to former Kaminoan Senator Halle Bertoni. So they go to talk to Halle Bertoni, explaining the situation to her, explaining that Rampart is lying to the Senate to push the bill and everything. However, Halle Bertoni says Rampart's just one cog in the machine. It's too late. My word means nothing. And she refuses to testify. So the Batch decides to infiltrate Rampart's Star Destroyer in order to obtain the mission logs from his Venator Star Destroyer showing the orbital bombardment of Kamino, proving once and for all to the Senate.
Well, she does actually testify too.
Oh, she does.
She refuses it first.
Oh, she refuses it first. Yeah, she refuses it first, but then of course later she testifies. So as the batch are doing that, the day of the vote arrives. The vote on the new conscription bill, and they infiltrate the Star Destroyer. However, once they're aboard, they do trigger a power surge and do have to make a hasty exit by the skin of their teeth. However, they do have the mission logs. They return to the Senate chambers where the vote is about to take place, where Halle Bertoni has actually now, she turned tail and actually did agree to testify. She did a 180. And Riyo Chuchi and Admiral Rampart are debating the merits of the bill. Just as they're about to vote on the bill, in comes the Bad Batch. They give Bail Organa the evidence, and for the whole Senate to see, the whole Senate sees the hologram recording of a fleet of Venator Star Destroyers bombarding Topoka City to pieces. However, just at that moment, Palpatine comes in, good old Palpatine with Mas Amedda, and Palpatine basically flips the whole situation on its head and basically says that he arrests, or Mas Amedda rather, Mas Amedda has Rampart arrested, and Palpatine gives this whole speech saying, thank you, Senator, for exposing a rogue element within our midst. We couldn't have done this without you. This is so dangerous. I'm so worried that these clones followed orders so unquestioningly. That's so concerning. We totally need this new defense bill to have conscripted soldiers. And then he basically gives the bill his stamp of approval, which with his popularity pretty much guarantees its passing. And the batch is sent home wondering where they all went wrong. Echo actually decides to stay behind from the Marauder and go with Captain Rex at the end of the episode, despite her lamentations, her protesting. He says, I have to go where I'm needed most. And right now, that's with Rex to find and help other clones.
Pulls us a beam.
Yeah, he pulls us a beam.
Very much, but yeah, that's this episode. That's this 2-part episode. Let's get into this. We decided to do 2 this time just because this is a good arc of 2, and then the next, I believe, I forget how we did it for the next one, because I know after this, the crossing, and then in the next episode after that are 2. I don't know. Let's see how we did that. I want to know what that let's see, what that is called anyway. Oh, so yeah, the crossing and retrieval we're also doing a 2 for, and then we're doing Metamorphosis, Outpost, and Pabu, and then we're doing Tipping Point, and then the 2-part finale in the same episode. Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah, but we thought we'd do these 2 because these are such juicy episodes, and I'm so excited to get into these. If you listen to I'll just give a big spoiler right here. If you listen to our appearance on Father Son Galaxy and my appearance on the Nerd Academy podcast, go check both of those out. There were great times. We had great times on both of them. I said multiple times these 2 were my favorite episodes of the season. And I will say that these are 2 my favorite episodes. These are my 2 favorite episodes of the show, period, right now. And yeah, excited to get into it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Both these episodes are phenomenal. And I was watching these yesterday, and I was watching the Clone Conspiracy. And then I went, man, that's got to be my favorite. There's no way Truth and Consequences is going to be as good as this. It's no way it could possibly be as fun as this. And lo and behold, it was. And I can't decide. They're both so good. I can't decide which one's my favorite.
I think Clone Conspiracy edges out Truth and Consequences for a few reasons, just slightly for me. But that's no slight to Truth and Consequences, because it's really great, and both of them have their role to play. But first, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about the fact that we are living in the golden age of Coruscant.
We are.
And I don't mean
much Coruscant.
And I don't mean in universe. I mean out of universe. I mean, we are getting it. We've now gotten it in 3 Star Wars projects that have come out this year already That is true. It was
Survivor.
Survivor obviously begins on Coruscant. Bad Batch has these episodes on Coruscant, or I guess we already got it on the Solitary Clone, but still. And then Mandalorian season 3 goes to Coruscant. So we're getting a Coruscant renaissance, and I'm all here for it. I love seeing it. You know, we're seeing it in very different points of time. This is at the very beginning of the Dark Times. Survivor is mid Dark Times, and then Mandalorian is obviously in the heyday of the New Republic. So we're seeing 3 very, very different looks at Coruscant. And I really like this look at Coruscant, especially because it doesn't look that different than TCW.
Yeah. I mean, this is very early in the Empire.
Early.
They haven't had a chance to really put their mark on it.
Yeah. It's a far cry even from what we'll see in Survivor.
Yeah.
With this stuff, because again, Survivor, and Andor, I guess, we just got last year, and it takes place a few years after Survivor, and we see Coruscant there. My point is that we're seeing Coruscant a lot, and my larger point really is that this era of Coruscant is really interesting because we saw it a lot in the Clone Wars, but now we're seeing it now. And it's interesting what's different and what's the same. I like that we get back to 79s. 79s is cool. We saw it literally once in the Clone Wars. This is our second appearance of 79s ever. Fives goes into it in the season 6 arc. Orders is the episode. And I like that we see it again. Clone bar, interesting idea. We've gotten a bunch of bars in Star Wars recently. We got the clone bar in Bad Batch, and then we got the droid bar in Mandalorian.
Bar Wars.
What?
Bar Wars.
Bar Wars, baby. Yeah. And then like we just saw the trailer for Outlaws just recently released, and that starts in a bar. We got a lot of bars in Star Wars lately. Nothing better than an old cantina. But yeah. You want to get into what do you want to get to first?
I mean, speaking of the clone bar, I think it's kind of a cool addition to this episode, and it's a fun concept and a setting for them to play with, because symbolically this is where the clones can come to, you know, be themselves. This is where they go for leisure, you know, for themselves. This is probably the one place most of these clones, at least the ones stationed on Coruscant, maybe others. This is probably like a clone bar is probably the one place clones go where they just relax, and they're there for themselves. They're there to have fun. They're there to live. They're not there to be soldiers. And so I think symbolically that is interesting that we see Slip and what's Slip's buddy's name again?
Cade.
Sorry, yeah. We see Slip and Cade, you know, kind of fomenting their ideas, and the other clones getting all riled up here. Similarly, this is where Fives goes when he's desperate and he's being chased. I don't know. I find that kind of cool. I think that's just worth pointing out. But yeah, where do you want to start here? Because there's a lot to tackle. These are some juicy episodes.
Yeah,
you're right.
One of the things, and we talked about this in our the first episode of the season. We're talking about the 2-part premiere. But this is another one of those concepts that seems obvious now that I think about it, but I never really thought about before the Bad Batch brought it up, which is that. And I love this. I love that this is an oversight by the Empire, that you can't just ask clones to bombard their homes on Kamino and not expect anything to happen with any of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's really not how they work. They are not droids. You tried to turn them into droids and you succeed for a few seconds, but it's not, obviously we're seeing more and more clones have been questioning the order, blah blah blah, as Cody says. But yeah, I'm interested in but of course we have Cade and Slip here. Kamino was a home, and we destroyed it. All those cities, all those people, gone. because of what we did. Because of what we did. One of the things I think that works most in this arc for me is that it is tackling one of the big questions in the Bad Batch's arc in the show. But instead of doing it just for the Bad Batch, it's doing it for the entire clone army. They were created for literally one purpose, to fight for the Republic and I guess the Empire in its early days. But they're being phased out. And they have to deal with scenarios that they had never thought about. There's that conversation in the Clone Bar later in this episode where Chuchi's meeting with them. And one of the clones literally says, we were trained never to think about anything other than the war.
Yeah.
And that's obvious in seeing their reactions to things, that they want to still go out fighting. But even though they were created for one purpose, they're still people.
Yeah.
And they, going back to one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars television, because I think this connects a lot back to the Deserter. Here we go, me bringing in the Deserter again. But seriously,
the Deserter was a very prescient episode. It's only gotten better with time.
Cut makes the decision to leave the Republic.
Yeah.
Cut did what clones were literally trained not to do. Deserting wasn't just not an option. It was like it wasn't a word in their vocabulary, I'm sure. Until Rex manages to dig that out. But now the clones are forced. They're not like they don't sit aside and think to themselves. They are forced to think about it. They are literally dragged in front of, what are you going to do when you're no longer the soldier that you were literally built for?
Yeah, and the clones. It's interesting that to go back to the Deserter. Cut is very unusual in that he wants to walk away from the fight. Even as it's clear what's happening. I mean, maybe it's not so clear, to the average clone, just as it might not be so clear to the average Imperial citizen.
Here's something else that's fun about this. We get two returning senators from Star Wars media that we knew of from other pieces of Star Wars media back here. The first one I want to pull up is Senator Tindra Pamlo of Terrace, who of course made her first appearance of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh, really? Wow.
And she is voiced in this by the same actress who played her, Sharon Benton Brewster.
Nice.
I remember seeing her. I'm like, oh my god, they brought Pamlo into animation. That's really cool. And then and Bale, but like Bale is just kind of a mainstay, not just like he's not like an Easter egg. He's Bail Organa, But the one I wanted to talk about, and the senator who's really, of course, key to these two, Senator Chuchi returns. Senator Riyo Chuchi of Pantora returns.
Yes.
It's been, I believe, let's see when Sphere of Influence was.
It's been a while since we've discussed the Chuchster.
Sphere of Influence was 2010. So it's been 13 years since we've
Really, that's her only appearance since then.
It's her latest appearance. She has two appearances, but one was in season 1, one was in season 3. The season 3 one was 13 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So yeah.
Season 3 13 years ago.
13 years ago. So
I feel
Yep.
I feel old.
So first we see Riyo Chuchi. Jennifer Hale's back as Riyo Chuchi after 13 years. Jennifer Hale's back as Riyo Chuchi after 13 years. And I love that she's been this advocate for the clones. I think that's an interesting thing, and I like the just like the idea of clone rights is unfortunately reminding me of a lot of political struggles we're facing in the United States today, where there's a lot of emphasis, unfortunately, from Chuchi on the clones being treated like the people they are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, something that we're seeing with a lot of people, whether it is Black people, whether it is LGBTQ plus people, whether it is disabled people, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the clones as soldiers, their existence and their function and their future obviously gets turned into this huge political battleground and this kind of hugely important tipping point for the empire and the rebellion and for the infant rebellion, and the remainders of the republic, and all that. So it is interesting that we have Chuchi kind of coming in, like you said, saying, "What about the clones as people?" What I'm kind of wondering is why Chuchi, or what caused her all of a sudden to come in on a clone kick? Because
I think that I think that Chuchi has proven from the sphere of influence test and all that kind of stuff that she is, at least in Star Wars, I assume. And again, we don't know how exactly the political spectrum works in Star Wars, but she seemed like a very liberal senator, along with people like Mon, like Bail, like Padme, like
she is very, I guess, for lack, it is Star Wars, but for lack of a better word, she is very, human rights oriented. Remember from Trespass and
yeah, she was the
those
one that
episodes, like
she stood up for the Tulls.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know this, but it makes sense with the fact that they got rid of Chairman Cho. Well, obviously they didn't get rid of him. I mean, they got rid of him and then he died. But Papa Noida, who came in after, seems very much in line with where Chuchi standed on things. And I'm not saying that Chuchi had everything to do with that. I think that it was a democratic election. I think she just probably had a lot of sway. You know what I mean? I think that it makes sense that because Chuchi was so new, but like she was in the power vacuum of like the chairmanship, that she was who the Pantorans looked to, that they ended up choosing someone with very similar views as her.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, it's interesting to see when they're having the debate on the floor, specifically when Bale said, I don't remember this, he was like, when the clone army was commissioned by then Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah.
And you can hear he's trying so very hard, and I think he's doing a really great job of it, of hiding the utter disgust in his voice.
Yeah, Go's a great voice acting.
Yeah, Phil Omar, goat.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting to me because like it's interesting to think about the psychology of anti-imperial senators.
Yeah.
In the early days of the Empire, because you have to play. You see Mon as the senator for Chandrila in Andor. They're watching me. Everything I say and do is monitored. She has to play the very political game very carefully, smile. That whole scene with Tay at the dinner party, all of that stuff, and stuff with Mon and Bail in Rebels, where they have, and even Bail in Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he has to be very careful, tiptoeing around things. And I'm not saying that things aren't like that for them now. I think things are a little less like that for them now, just because the Empire isn't at its full strength yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We even hear, I can't remember who says it, but someone says, yeah, Palpatine is scared. Like, and clearly the Empire is still in its infancy. It's in a fragile position. Palpatine needs to fully consolidate power. Palpatine has not, obviously, that it takes him 20 years to fully dissolve the Senate, but this is when the Senate is still a very powerful, influential political body.
It's not like we're looking at even Andor, where we see Andor, Mon is speaking to a mostly empty chamber. Leia, Princess of Alderaan, says the Senate only meets 1 to 2 times a year at that time.
Yeah. Well, by the time Andor happens, Palpatine, like, obviously the Senate is just like a figurehead. It doesn't do anything. But at this point, Palpatine's still needs the approval of the Senate.
I think I think
to do what he needs to do.
I think he's trying to make it a figure like.
He's trying to he's trying to defang the Senate. He's trying to sideline the Senate.
Understands as a political mastermind, as the political mastermind he does understand.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That he can't just dissolve it in a minute.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a gradual process, and part of that process is him basically getting the Senate wrapped around his finger.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and very much in this episode, I like the fact that in this episode that if we're flashing ahead to Truth and Consequences, when he says, "I strongly recommend that the Senate does this,"
yeah,
the Senate does it. I mean, we don't know that the Senate does it. We don't hear that specifically, but it's implied.
I mean,
the Senate does it.
I mean, clearly at this point, Palpatine is so popular. I guess because of everything that's happened, he is very, very popular.
I mean, he is the emperor.
Yeah, and he's the emperor at this point. Like
people who don't agree with him should, even at this point, should fear for their safety.
Yeah, and I mean, but he rode into the emperorship that he created on a massive wave of popularity. This is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. So yeah. I mean, obviously him.
Yes, but I think that even comparing this to TCW, could he turn the tide of a bill in TCW? Yes. Would it have been as overwhelming as this?
Not as overwhelming.
I'm not so sure. I don't think so.
I mean, I think the whole assassination, the whole point of the whole point of Revenge of the Sith is kind of he gave himself a lot of popularity by twisting what happened and creating the narrative that he did for the public and the Senate to see. But to go back to Riyo Chuchi, I find it cool to have her talking about the clones, because I think, how to say this, the fact that it's so surprising to this, it really adds to the story of the clones. I think, because as an audience member, I think it's pretty surprising to hear a non-clone speak so bluntly and so plainly as being very, very concerned with the rights and the fate of all the clone troopers. And I think that kind of, at least to me, that kind of suddenly underscored whoa, this is the situation of the clones, which we kind of knew all along, but to have that contrast kind of makes you made me think back to all the moments in the Clone Wars and earlier in the Bad Batch where the clones are concerned, where the fate of the clones are concerned, where they're not even seen as human by even people who are considered the good, even the good Republic senators, characters who are heroic, characters like even Bale, he kind of, he's not even concerned to the extent, or at least he's not outspoken about it. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air and stirring the pot to have someone be so outspoken about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason Bale's not so outspoken about it, or at least as we've seen, is because this tracks for him.
Yeah. Maybe he thinks he has bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I think he thinks he has bigger fish to fry. And I think this is one of the things I love is, and we see this in this arc, is that I feel like this is that line when Jin finally agrees to join the rebels on the mission to Scarif and Rogue One, and Cassian goes, "Welcome to the rebellion."
Yeah.
I feel like that moment, that this arc is leading up to that moment for Chuchi. I feel like she is still under the impression, as Padme was in TCW.
She's an institutionalist. So.
She is still under the impression that even the Empire can be made better and she can still work within it.
Yeah.
To do that. Kind of a little bit like Mon and Andor. A little bit, but I think even more so. And I think this episode is her realizing that no, this system is rigged exactly how the Empire wants it to be. Yeah. And just because she thinks she's doing something doesn't mean she actually is doing anything.
No, yeah, totally.
And I think that
That's a lesson for her here, and I think
there's even a line where Bale kind of says as much, where it's like, I forget exactly. Oh yeah, the issue of clone rights is part of a much bigger picture. Yeah. These insurgencies that have arisen, their numbers are growing, and the Emperor is afraid. If systems begin to revolt as they did with the Republic, that will threaten his new empire.
Yeah, that's the quote I was trying to tell you about. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Anyway,
I wasn't. That wasn't a.
Yeah, no, I get it.
That wasn't a call out. That was a good thing.
But yeah, no, but the thing is, I think, Bale obviously realized. I think because Bale, and I'm not saying that he only realized that because he was sitting next to Padme at this moment, but I think Padme was standing right next to Bale when she said, "So this is how everybody dies," with thunderous applause.
Yeah.
And I think Bale was not so naive. I think he is as altruistic as Padme or somebody like Padme or Mon is, but I don't think he was ever as naive as at least Padme was in the beginning, or as I think Riyo is now. I think Riyo still is quite a bit of a news center.
I think Riyo is much more, I guess, maybe we'd say naive or than Padme ever was. I don't think Padme was that way. I think we look at Padme's actions, certainly she makes missteps here and there.
I think the beginning of the Clone Wars might have been that naive, but I think
she makes some miscalculations, but she's not. I don't know. I find it hard to believe. I mean, this is off topic, but I don't know. I find it hard to buy that she is in the same mental state or the same kind of viewpoint as Chuchi here, who is much less experienced than Padme would be, even at the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Insult Chuchi. I think she's fighting for a lot of great things, but I think that
she's a great character. I hope we haven't seen the last of her.
I really do too. But I think this arc is and I love how cleverly this is crafted, because never really overtly said, but we can see it where Riyo is figuring out, this stuff this goes way down. We're investigating as this episode says, we're investigating a real goddamn conspiracy here. This goes all the way up.
This is you said it perfectly. It's her welcome to the rebellion moment. I wouldn't be surprised if down the line we see her involved in resisting and working against the Empire more directly.
Yeah. I'd be worried for her in that sense, but because that's another thing we'll talk about this episode, is how this network that Rex is setting up, that Chuchi's become a part of, and we'll see it later in this episode. This is something I was talking to a friend of the show, Alden Diaz, Vox Radio, about. This rebellion, this resistance is doomed to fail. It's going to fail. We know it is going to fail because Rex in Rebels has a sort of TLJ Luke arc where he has to be convinced multiple times to join the fight.
Yeah.
To rejoin the fight. So something so awful must have happened that he was so discouraged, as complete contrast from where he is here, where he's doing what needs to be done, where he's, fighting the good fights and all that kind of stuff. Disaster needs to strike between now and then.
It does, and I think it will. If not,
of course it will. I have no doubt it will. But I think that it's 15 years between now and then. We know this. It's 15 years between now and then. Rebels season 2 is 3 BBY, and this is 18. So yeah, it's 15 years somewhere in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the next few years, and I also think that's probably where we're going with season 3 of the Bad Batch. Honestly.
No, yeah, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
But yeah. One of the things I love about this episode is the suspense. The suspense of this episode works so goddamn well, with Slip constantly running through Coruscant, being chased by, we never know exactly where Clone X is. It's fantastic. I love that stuff. Yeah, I really that suspenseful aspect of it. Seeing never really knowing where the assassin's gonna be when freaking Chuchi catches up with him, and the guards and all that kind of stuff with her guards, poor guards that follow the effort. It's so it's so fantastic, and it's directed so well.
Yeah, the whole political. I love episodes that have a lot of political intrigue and
yeah.
backroom subterfuge, things like that.
I think this episode does the political intrigue maybe better than almost anything I could think of.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It's so good. The dialogue. When you do an episode like this, it really comes down to the a lot of times the dialogue and just the writing, and it really has to be well done, and it really is executed to perfection here. It's so crisp. There's so many lines where I was like, ooh, that is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really good. Like, yeah, the whole conversation between
Chuchi and Rampart.
Chuchi and Rampart for one thing, but then Chuchi and Organa.
Oh, Chuchi
Organa's, warning him about Rampart. Says, oh, well, Rampart knows how to say the right thing, And then the whole dynamic as well, I thought was really fun of kind of Rampart and Slip, even though they're not directly in contact, kind of competing for Chuchi's ear and for Chuchi to fall on their side and believe them. And she's really teetering on that line for a moment there.
I don't think she's teetering. I don't think she was ever seriously considering what Rampart was saying.
I mean, you look at the reaction of the way she says. I think it's closer than it comes a little closer than you might think, personally. But I don't know. I mean, this is definitely, speaking of Rampart, this is an important episode for Rampart because,
of course, it is.
Obviously, we know, like, he killed one of the clones. Like, we know he's up to no good now. Like, we know he's serious, but this is by far the and ultimately he does end up fucking up and getting himself arrested and thrown under the bus in the next episode. But at least in the Clone Conspiracy, this is by far the most competent and poised and
it's probably just the most
precise, delicate version of Rampart we've seen.
Oh, absolutely.
And before this, he's kind of just there.
He's kind of just there.
He's kind of just there. He's kind of just this, he's kind of just there to be the, it could be any, just any arrogant, pompous imperial officer,
But it's him.
But here he really starts.
He shows why he's so hiring.
He's a schemer. He's a conniver.
Yeah.
He's cunning.
No
he's
wonder
ruthless.
why Palpatine appointed him again.
Yeah, exactly.
But
even if it's just to be a scapegoat.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: no one's going to out scheme Palpatine. That's just not going to happen.
He's the mastermind. He's playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers.
I said at the end of my analysis here that that the Bad Batch in the next episode, just jumping ahead a little bit, was playing 3D chess. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter though, because Palpatine is playing 10D chess.
Yeah.
And no matter how good you are at 3D chess, you're never going to beat somebody who is playing 10D chess.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. Like they did a real fun plan there, but like just not good enough.
True.
But I want to get to Rampart and Chuchi's conversation. You expect the Empire to fund a new military and full pension for millions of clone troopers. And I'm like, okay, counter question, Rampart. You don't? You expect the clones who have just been fighting for you for the last 3 years, you're just going to let them go. That's what you're going to do. I mean, I know the answer to that question, but like, really? When we confront this in bare bones terms, you're really going to just throw away the army like garbage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously Rampart has his agenda and he's part of the cog. But yeah, I was really hoping Chuchi would say, "Well, if we can't afford a pension for the clones, why don't we just keep using them?"
Well, that's kind of what she says.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
She says, "If we can't afford a pension for the clones, then I don't see a reason why we have to spend that money on a new army."
Yeah,
which is true, and there's I actually do like this idea, and what was I gonna say? I do like this, I do like the commentary on very much the military industrial complex in this episode, because there is like, when you see, and I'm going to get political here and whatever, people are going to like it or they're not going to, I don't care. Where, you see often people on the right pushing in budgetary stuff more defense, more defense, more defense, more defense, more defense. But then you see them quashing social services. And my constant question is, so we're spending all this money on defense, but we're not spending on money on the people. So we're defending what exactly? We're defending our broken down state of a country where if you go to the hospital and you don't have adequate insurance, you have to you will get broke immediately, even if they do fix whatever medical problem you have. Like, what exactly are we defending if we are constantly downsizing our social services program? And that's kind of what I see happening here.
Yeah.
They constantly go military, military, military. But, we see with stuff like the Bad Batch and all across the Dark Times era. I'm going to go back to Jedi Survivor and because I think the Coruscant sequence in that game actually relates a lot there. Where when Cal says to Sajin, they spit your name out like a curse on Utapau. You know,
such a hard line.
Some people are benefiting from the Empire, but not most people.
Yeah. Well, I think George Lucas was no fool. He knew what he was doing with the political commentary, and I think that's.
Wait, I think Star Wars can't be political.
Oh, but yeah, my bad. No, Star Wars is totally and completely apolitical. Never been about politics.
So wait.
There's definitely not a character literally named after Newt Gingrich or anything like that.
Well, let's go to the second episode in this one. The character named after Halliburton.
That's so good, Halliburton. I know. I love when they. Yeah. I love when they get a little bit. I love when they get a little bit cheeky with the names.
Cheeky with
That's my favorite thing. Like,
Jacob. So wait, are you saying that all this stuff makes Star Wars?
Oh, it can't be. Oh god,
it can't be.
Oh, the horror. Oh, the horror. Oh no. Oh, the horror. But I think like, I mean, it's absolutely the fact that they're showing the Empire like this, and the way that the Empire is portrayed in another Filoni project, in Rebels, also in Andor, wherever the Empire, it's all much like many real world dictatorships, oligarchies, troubled democracies. Sadly, I think we're kind of a troubled democracy at this point. Let's admit it.
Hard agree.
But not to put too fine a point on it, I think, and that's Palpatine's MO. That's the Sith MO. He is the Sithari. He's the chosen one of the Sith. He's the rule of one. Palpatine sees the entire galaxy as a monument to him. He just wants to rule over it. Of course, he doesn't care about it. Of course, the Empire, which he kind of molds and shapes their ethos, of course they don't care about what's actually happening to people. All that matters is dominion. That's where it ends. All that matters is dominion. So of course you're going to put all your money into the military, into these massive capital ships, into the Death Star, because it's all a reflection of
your own power,
the power of like who wields that power.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's like Palpatine. So knowing Palpatine as a character, like I think goes without saying that this makes perfect sense, and this portrayal is like totally on point, and I love how it builds towards our understanding of the Empire and our perception of the Empire.
Yeah. Another thing I want to there's some more stuff about the conversation between Chuchi and Rampart that I'm just interested in. But the murmurs of rising threats and insurgency are more than rumors. We hear this constantly through this episode, and I love this. Rising threats, insurgencies, rebellions, terrorism. Yeah. Do we ever get any statistics about this stuff?
Well, that's the rhetoric of authoritarianism.
No,
it's the rhetoric of the right wing.
They can just throw these buzzwords out and be fine.
Almost like what people do in the real world.
Yeah, again, we don't know if this shit's actually happening or not.
Yeah.
But because as you say, the authoritative, the fascist state is saying it, I guess that's what must be happening.
Yeah, I mean, Palpatine is a strong man. He's a strong man. He's like any other political leader in this world who consolidates power by coming to power, taking advantage of real political suffering, real uncertainty, and a real lack of prosperity and hope. And he says, I can fix all this. I can keep you safe. Well, just give me all the power.
Yeah, only I can fix it. I alone can fix it. Make the galaxy great again. Anyway, what were we talking about? I was gonna say
totally about how Star Wars is totally and completely apolitical.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
anytime there's a woman character, it's totally an attack on our rights to never have to think about anything ever.
People already, just quick sidebar on this one's the internet's so deranged sometimes. People are already hating. You watched the Outlaws trailer, right?
I've not seen the Outlaws trailer yet, actually.
All you need to know is a couple things. Well, the thing that you need to know is that the main character of Outlaws it's a woman.
And oh boy, I know there's a lot of people who are just they're gonna come up with something. They're gonna come up with something to be pissed about for that one.
Apparently, the one right now is how can men relate to a woman main character of a video game, which is maybe the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
We could ask the same question about the entire cast of the original trilogy except for Lando being white and Leia being the only like notable woman character, or except for maybe Mon Mothma. Yeah, not even.
And not even Baru. Baru's dead within the first 30 minutes.
No, don't even talk about Baru. Oh man. Here's my suggestion for people who are worried about that. Get a job. Go outside.
Say that's life, but whatever. Anyway, no, but yeah, no, but people thinking that we can't relate to K-Vess or something like that. Like, men can't relate to K-Vess. Go fuck yourself.
Well, I think this idea that you can't relate and I'm not saying this to say that representation is not important, and representation of people of different, races, ethnicities, sexualities, gender, ages, like everything, like representation is really important. And I understand that. And I'm prefacing that. But I also think that this idea and it's being pushed a lot, and it's being pushed a lot in different ways, maybe kind of more as an assumption that people make, but the assumption that you like can't relate or empathize to someone if they don't look like you is terrible.
Nope, absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah,
I hate it.
That's what people that's what people of the underrepresented populations have been doing to the majority characters, to Luke Skywalker, to Anakin Skywalker, even to Rey sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what they've been doing this entire time.
Yeah, it's that's kind of the thing when I think about the thing, like this whole like how can you relate to a female character, which is like, wow, there's more to life than like your gender. Wow, who would have thought? But like, yeah, that's a good point. Like for a long time, like Black fans, Asian fans who are girls, they didn't have a lot of people to relate to, or not fans who pretty much aren't white men didn't have a ton to relate to for a long time. So why do we expect that when it's the other way around? Not saying they're I'm sorry, I've made a hash of what I'm trying to say, but it's
I get what you're saying.
We can and should relate to characters who don't look like us,
and let's admit,
that's what I'm trying to say,
and let's admit,
and I'm not using that as an argument against fair representation.
No, absolutely not. I understand what you're saying. Let's be fair though. We're almost certainly preaching to the choir right now.
We're definitely oh god, we're definitely preaching to the choir right now.
But this is important stuff, and we want to talk about it.
Hopefully, someone appreciates us popping off.
But yeah, no. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I think this is interesting. I was thinking about this a little earlier. The idea of This popped in my mind when we were talking about Chuchi being a bit naive, and I think she is in a way, and I think she isn't in a way.
Oh no,
I
yeah,
think she's a great politician, but I don't think she's a great political theorist, if that makes sense.
well, I just think she's fallen into the trap that a lot of senators have, that we kind of see, which is where they think, oh, we still have a lot of power and control over the empire. And people like Bale and Mon Mothma and plenty of others, even like people who are probably not pro rebellion, people like Halle Bertoni, like there's plenty of senators who kind of see what's actually happening, but there's also plenty of people who don't, and I don't necessarily think that that's any reflection. Maybe that's a little bit of a reflection of her character, but all the like most of the senators are buying what Palpatine is saying. That's the reason his scheme is working.
Yeah, you know? And I also think that a lot of people, I think, assumed when the Empire formed that nothing would really change.
Yeah,
and
I mean, listen. Remember the line in Andor, or no, it's not in. Is it in?
What do you think?
No, it's in Mandalorian. Empires, republics. I don't even bother to keep track these days. You know, that something like that.
The convert, yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of this assumption, much like in the real world, there's an assumption by a lot of powerful and wealthy people. I don't need to care. Yeah, we won't change.
But I think that it's interesting in Riyo's case, because I think what she's realizing, and this is a savvy political move, and I think this is like her first crack at the idea that, oh shit, this is actually really fascist. Where she asked Rampart how he survived the storm. Because supposedly he was there, and he was, and I like this, like, she didn't accuse him of lying. She was just poking around. She was trying to figure out his official story, what they were selling, to see if there was any way that she could believe them. This is my thing about, like, I don't think she would believe them. Like, I think she was just like, to give the benefit of the doubt to them, which I don't think she needed to do, but whatever. Let's see if there's any way. And then he gives that bullshit answer to her. And she was like, all right, no, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way I'm believing this.
The fact that Rampart says, if I was there, perhaps more could have been saved. That reminds me of a certain Mark Wahlberg, his assertions about a certain 9/11.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking of a certain celebrity and a certain TV star talking about school shootings, and how if he were in the buildings, he could have stopped all of it.
Oh yeah.
He might have been our president too. I don't know.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, no, Rampart saying that is like, I don't know. It's just really funny too, because it just reminds me of, for those of you who don't know, it reminds me of like the meme of Mark Wahlberg being like, if I had been there at 9/11, it would have gone down differently if I was on that plane.
Dear God.
Just being like, okay, cool. What are we supposed to do with that? What? Like, oh my God. Oh my God. But that's neither here nor there.
No, I was
thinking, what else for this episode?
Let's see. So, I think we gotta concluding this episode with our boy, Clone X.
Clone X.
Now, if you listen to the Fallout and Galaxy episode we did of the review of season 2, you will. No. This was not on Fallout and Galaxy. This was on the Nerd Academy podcast. This was on Nerd like when I was on. You know that I was expecting a very different reveal with Clone X. I expected them to knock out the assassin, them to flip up the head, and to see this orange, shriveled up guy.
Oh, Ochi.
I mean, come on. It would have been the perfect opportunity to put Ochi a best student in the Bad Batch.
That's your opinion.
Yes, but it's also correct opinion.
Okay, I don't know enough about Ochi Bestune to really comment on that, so I'm just gonna let you have your. I'm just gonna let you have your hot take.
I'm fantasy right now, where Ochi Bestune was the guy instead of Clone X. To be fair, Clone X is still a really good idea. I'm really curious about this guy. I'm really curious about what the Empire did to him exactly. I'm really curious about how they did to him. His number's gone, no identification markers. His suit of armor is completely different than any clone armor we've ever seen. Who is this guy?
I ask myself the same thing.
And there is a part of me, and I'm not sure if this is a thread we were meant to connect or not. And if it wasn't, then I will totally fall on my sword on this one. But there's a part of me that thinks we know this guy.
Is it Slick, maybe? Like he seemed kind of, I don't know, maybe similar demeanor.
From TSW, right?
Mean clone, yeah. Maybe.
Here's my dark theory. So let's go back to Solitary Clone.
Okay.
Cody went AWOL. And I think it'd be pretty hard to stay missing from the Empire that long. What if they caught him? What if that was Cody? What if they brainwashed him?
Oh my.
What if Cody was Clone?
Oh my.
Again, could this be completely wrong? Yes. If we see Cody in the next season, I will say for myself it is completely wrong. It is probably completely wrong.
Yeah. But what if it's not?
But we just so happened like this was like 4 or 5 episodes ago to have a clone with a loose end that we conveniently don't see for the rest of the season. So yeah. I'm not saying it's Cody. I'm saying that it wouldn't surprise me if it was Cody.
I would be very surprised if it was Cody, but
I mean,
I'd also think it's
death for Cody, but like,
what would have changed from all of a sudden be like, I'm a believer and he's like working for, you know?
Well, yeah, but the idea is that he's been brainwashed by the Empire.
Okay, yeah. I guess.
I'm not saying that I think it's true. I'm saying it could have happened.
It would be interesting. I doubt they would.
Yeah,
I feel like they have something else in store for Cody.
Yeah. I will also just say this a couple things. First of all, the warehouse sequence with Chuchi and Clone X and Rex at the end. Peak Star Wars suspense. Love it. No notes about that shit. Love it.
Peak. You're right.
And I also love the fact that when they're examining Clone X, Rex is like, I got a place I can use. And then we pan down to Trace and Rafa's former stomping grounds. I'm like, I love that nod because it's something that if you know, it's the famous IYKYK. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't subtract from anything if you don't know. But as this is for fans of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, if you know, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know, you will know.
You will definitely know. Got anything else for this episode? Or do you want to go on to Truth and Consequences? I don't want to. I think we should review both these episodes because of the 2-part nature.
I mean, they're pretty much one. Yeah, we can go on to Truth and Consequences now.
Truth and Consequences.
Wow.
We have this is as Clone Conspiracy was our Devil's Deal. This is our Rescue on Rala because this was setting up the scenario, and now we get to how the Bad Batch involves in it because of course, no member of the Bad Batch was involved in this in the Clone Conspiracy. None of them appear. So, but of course, Rex is our window into this. By the way, let's see. I seem to remember in a few episodes ago, somebody talking about Omega flinching before she hit the ground with
yes, guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. That was me.
Gunji taught me, but it doesn't work the way it does for me, the way it does for him.
But that doesn't mean anything. She's got time. She hasn't had instruction. She hasn't had instruction from a Jedi. So
you need instruction from a Jedi to feel the Force. Is that what you're saying?
I think that hypothetically it is possible that if you don't know you're feeling the Force, how are you supposed to know what you're feeling? I'm shrugging and making a weird hand gesture right now, and Eli's looking at me like, dude, you're crazy.
I'm just saying, I'm still not convinced.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
I'm still not convinced.
hey, we can wish. We can wish, although, yeah. A
Um,
guy can dream.
yeah, no, I understand.
Just want the reveal of like I just want that reveal at the end of like some episode or I don't know, something where like something's about to crash into the Bad Batch and it pans over and it's like Omega, like with her arms outstretched, like straining with the force to like she's like I don't know. I don't know. I thought that would be cool.
Um,
Maybe that's just me. It's probably just me. Moving on.
moving on. I love the conversation we get with Echo and Omega. Obviously, it's foreshadowing for Echo leaving, so we can care a bit more.
Yeah.
Can you believe this is the first time in now? This is what? How many episodes we into the season? We into the show 24. I think this is the first time in 24, 25 episodes. This is now. No, 24. This is 24. This is the first time in 24 episodes that we hear about Skako Minor. You know, the mission where Echo joined the Batch.
Hey, Echo probably doesn't want to hear about Skako Minor.
I know,
Echo
but
probably hates talking about it.
4 episodes, 1.5 seasons. You think maybe once before this we would have heard about, oh yeah, that time we went to Skako Minor. You know, the time where everybody knows us from. Anyway, it's been about a year. No, it's been it's been about a year since that happened. I'm glad he's opening up about it to Omega. I will say this is an interesting thing, and we've talked. I think we've talked about this before off show, but we get this like. Do you realize how I don't know if you noticed how quickly it is that Hunter and Hunter and the crew decide to take the mission, even though it's on freaking Coruscant.
They've got cabin fever.
And it reminded me of Cal in Survivor.
It's like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's just go to Coruscant.
I mean,
which seems to me like it's one of those things where, like, you know, it would seem to me that in like the Imperial era at any period, going to Coruscant would be like going to Mustafar at the end of Rebels, where they all have to say, "Wait, we're really going to Mustafar? That's a death sentence."
Yeah,
and it seems like Coruscant would need to be the same because it's the capital of the Imperial, you know.
You know, you'd think so, but it's such a huge place.
Yeah, that and so many things need to take place there that apparently not.
Yeah.
And like Luzin just owns a shop there in Andor.
Yeah.
You know, he just owns a shop there. I want to talk about the fact I don't know that they and I love that this works because we don't know how much they've had contact. But like the fact that Chuchi just talks to Rampart with Omega standing beside her and Rampart doesn't recognize her.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, does Rampart meet Omega on Camino ever?
I don't know if he does.
I don't think I don't recall him doing so.
But like, it's two characters that, at least for me, I think should have had contact by this point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is a plot hole or something. I'm just like, there's no reason there's no way they couldn't have met by now. And it's just like, it was me like this. I don't think this was the point of the scene, but I do think it adds to the scene where I'm just looking over the entire time, like, do not look over. Do not look over. Do not pay attention to that girl. Do not pay attention. That could ruin this entire day. Do not pay attention to that girl right there. Yeah. Do not. I also just really love how like people like Bale and people like Halle Bertoni just kind of accept that Omega's along for the ride in this whole thing. I also just like that Omega, of course, role models matter no matter the race, no matter the gender, but having like obviously that she has the Batch as a bunch of role models for her, but it's also important to have good role models of your gender.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I like that the Chuchi serving as that for her. And I would argue that Fee also serves as that, but some people might disagree. But anyway, some people might call her taking advantage of Omega's innocence, but I don't know. I'm not saying anybody here. I'm saying some people.
Hey. Totally different situation. I see what you're doing there. Nice try. Totally different situation. I. What would Rampart say? I will not. What would Rampart say? I will not legitimize this baseless accusation with any more of my time. I think that's what I'm going to pull a Rampart and say that. Speaking of Rampart,
Went well for him, right?
oh yeah, sure, yeah, no, he's all good now. Yeah, totally went well for him. Um, man, I mean, also the how about the scene with Riyo Chuchi trying to explain what a senator does to Omega, and Omega kind of slow, without even meaning to, she slowly just completely like tears down Riyo Chuchi's like idea of democracy and a healthy functioning Senate. Just she's like, but what does that actually mean?
And
She's
like
like,
the clones presentation.
no.
Well,
Yeah,
again, I think it's part of Riyo Chuchi's welcome
it's
to the
part of her
rebellion.
arc. Yeah, she's like,
Where
oh shit.
where she's like, oh, this place really doesn't have as much power as I think it did.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Um let's see. I love that we get back to Halle Bertoni. It's been probably around a decade since we've seen her.
Yeah.
I love all these TCW characters coming back.
Me too. Here.
It's fantastic. Uh, I also love, of course, I want to mention this. Due to the political thriller element of this arc, it's really nice to see Bale. I don't know if this was intentionally on the part of the writers, though I can't imagine it wasn't. Bale quotes another famous political thriller when he says "Follow the money," which is a famous quote from the great film. If people have not seen it, they should. All the President's Men, really great film about how the Watergate investigation came out.
Yeah.
How journalists figured out how, with the help from an FBI informant, how Richard Nixon had broken into Watergate to steal info on the Democratic National Committee's doings.
Yeah. It's good advice.
And how
follow the money.
Yeah, and how they figured it out. And there was a famous quote from that movie. Yeah. I also just like, of course, we say this, we hear this, and from Bertoni, and I think this is maybe the best thing she says all this entire episode. Rampart is a mere cog in the machine, and she tries to warn them, and I like this foreshadowing that it goes way higher than Rampart, and that Rampart is really not as much to do with this as they think he is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, and then you have, yeah. I mean, the big twist at the end. Are we ready to talk about the big twist?
Well, we haven't gotten to like the side mission, which is them stealing the data. Which
okay.
I love that just like Rogue One, this arc basically comes down to a space airdrop.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to mention the whole like parallels. Actually, I was gonna say with the convert of like hijacking rebuilt / decommissioned Imperial ships, just like in the convert when Kane and Pershing are trying to get through that old Imperial Star Destroyer. It's a great like and with I'd also say with Cal on Braca and with the Batch on Braca, both those times. I love like that trope because it's like the old era is ending and the new era is beginning.
Yes.
Love that kind of stuff.
Totally.
As a really great visual symbolizer of that stuff. Yeah, here we go. I wrote that in this entire speech because I just
Let us hear it. Let us
I
hear it.
am deeply troubled by this recent revelation. My gratitude to Senator Chuchi for exposing a rogue element within our ranks. Many lives have been lost, but I assure you, Admiral Rampart will face the consequences for his treachery. However, he did not act alone. The fact that the clones under his command so blindly followed orders, inflicting such carnage without hesitation, gives me pause. Perhaps it is time for a change. Now, more than ever, building a strong galaxy requires protection and security. Due to the nefarious actions of Admiral Rampart and the immediacy of the bill on the floor today, it is my opinion that this legislation is our future. With this momentous act, we shall usher in a new era, heralded by the Imperial Stormtrooper.
Anakin Stark Deeds plays. Dun, 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 and because, of course, they get the evidence to the Senate, and then Palpatine. I love that he does.
This is what he does.
He golf claps. He claps. He kind of does a little golf clap for them. It's like, good job, guys. Now watch a real mastermind work. What he does, and I remember this is, I think, one of the only episodes of the show that I did this for, where I just sat there after watching this episode. And I remember this. This was a few months ago. I sat there after watching this episode and I went, wow. They did that with the Palpatine speech. That Palpatine speech was so incredibly, like, I gotta just gush about that speech, because that is my favorite part of either of these two episodes, even though Conspiracy is my overall favorite. This speech is my favorite part of either of these episodes because it matches a TCWS quest and just generally what we know of Palpatine's characters so goddamn well.
Oh yeah,
he had this under control for the entire time. Like the idea that, like, I think that there was an interpretation at the end of the episode that he was trying to make Rampart take the fall for this. But I don't think he was trying to make Rampart take the fall for this. I think this was just many of his well-executed backup plans.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Like, what the clones kind of say, like, oh my God, Palpatine, like, we're responsible. Palpatine knew all along. No, if that information hadn't come to light, then the bill would have just been passed and nothing would have happened.
Yeah,
this is just like you said,
one of Palpatine's many backup plans.
This was just him. He had a backup plan. He thought on his feet, whatever it was. He was able to take the sudden thorn in his side and still twist it to his advantage.
Yeah,
which, in my opinion, maybe even more impressive because it's actually believable.
Yeah,
like the idea that Palpatine like planned out that the Bad Batch would like do what they did in order to find the log. It's like, to me, that
I don't think he planned that. I think they were saying that he was worried that some of the information might get out.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah, that's fair.
In some way. But no,
either way, he was like 8 steps ahead of them. That much is true.
Yeah, I don't think this was a thing. I think that Palpatine, again, as we said, this is, I think, one of his many backup plans. Yeah. I think that here's the thing, and as we talked about with the whole idea, and this has become my version of the Jedi lost their way, I feel like, of me saying that the Imperial view is to view everyone as an asset.
Yeah.
Palpatine didn't want to give him an asset. It's not that he cared about Rampart. It's that he's playing it, and you don't want to give up one of your chess pieces because that's an advantage for your side. But if he had to, he was more than willing to do it. And I think that's what the situation was. That's what the situation was. He didn't want to have to give up Rampart, but he was perfectly fine doing it.
Yeah.
And I love the revelation. And I don't know if Rampart realizes this, but I really hope he did, that he is being treated by Palpatine just like how he was treating the clones.
Yeah.
Because he is the same with Palpatine.
I'm sure he'll realize. I'm sure he'll realize that. just like Dooku and
Yeah.
Ventress.
He was an asset all along. It's the beautiful tragic irony. And we got our first main villain of this show out of the picture. He's gone now.
Yeah.
We will not see Hemlock, Boris Hemlock, who is going to be the next major villain of the show up for. I don't think he's going to show up next episode. I think it'll be the
I think
episode
a couple
after.
of it. I thought it was at least a couple.
I mean, the episode of this show. Like, I don't think next episode.
Yeah.
I think he's 3 episodes ahead, and I think we're doing the next 2. I think he shows up in Metamorphosis, which is the next episode. We're doing. Yeah. And then Echo goes, and then Echo leaves.
Man, sad moment.
It hurt. It hurt when I saw that. I remember thinking to myself when I watched that episode, like, wow, Echo really cannot find a place anywhere, because he leaves Rex for the batch.
He goes back
and at the end of TCW. Then here he leaves the batch for Rex, and then later he's going to leave Rex for the batch again. I'm like, dude cannot keep his head down in one place, man.
He's just a social butterfly.
He's a social butterfly.
But no, on a more somber note, like, he really is kind of like, that was an emotional moment where you kind of realize, like, he doesn't even fully fit in with the Bad Batch. You know,
I don't think
not that he doesn't fit in, but like, his goals and ideals are still different from the rest of the batch, or at least from Hunters, who's kind of the leader, the de facto leader.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was, Omega obviously makes a big fuss. I mean, I don't know. Does she go too far? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she's, you could understand. She could understand.
Yeah.
But
of course, we'll talk about the ramifications.
This is who she is.
We'll talk about the ramifications of Echo's leaving with the crossing when we get to that. But this is a huge moment in the show, even though it's temporary. Again, we compared this to Sabine, very similar to Sabine, that for a little while, one of the members of the crew has to pursue their own path to get some clearance on what they really want to be doing.
Yeah.
Echo with the clones, Sabine with the Empire. Do you have anything else for either of these 2 episodes?
No. These are just 2 of the most fantastic, definitely my 2 favorite Bad Batch episodes right now. Even better the second time around.
Absolutely.
Just the ideas, the execution, the dialogue, the voice acting, the music, everything was absolutely on point in these episodes. And these are a real treat. These are a real treat. I don't treat these episodes for granted.
Yeah.
These freaking rule.
I want to shout out Ezra Nachman and Damani Johnson, who were the writers of these 2 episodes, and Nathaniel Villanueva and Stuart Lee, who were the directors of these episodes, because they produced magic.
Oh yeah.
That I think it deserves to be among animation epics like The Siege of Mandalore, Mortis, Twilight Apprentice,
wow.
0 Hour, Breakout, The Sith Lord. I think this deserves. I think it's some of the best politics Star Wars has ever done. In terms of political stuff, I think it's up there with stuff done in TCW, in Andor, in Resistance, in TLJ.
Yeah.
I think
it's nice because it's kind of subtle. It doesn't hit you over the head with it.
With the politics?
Yeah. I guess in a way, but like,
I was gonna say, I feel like it hits you over the head pretty hard with it.
I feel like it doesn't. I don't know. I think it kind of.
I thought you were being sarcastic for a second.
No, I was not.
Okay.
I was not being sarcastic. I mean, it's obviously there.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is all about politics.
Yeah.
But I think that it's
about,
just.
But it's about other things too.
These are very impeccably balanced episodes. That's what it feels like,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
These feel well balanced in every sense of the word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's so much. I said in my notes, everything in these 2 episodes just clicked, and I really do believe that. It just clicked with each other. This feels like an eventful. This feels like a mid-season episode. This feels impactful for the fate of the galaxy. We just saw the rise of the Stormtrooper. I thought we were going to see them in season 2, but we didn't. And I think that's because they still need a while to like actually make the suits of armor and everything.
Yeah.
But it's really, what was I gonna say? It's really, this feels galactically important as an episode. This feels important to the story of Star Wars as an episode, just thematically. These episodes feel important, and I couldn't love them enough. When we get to the end of the season, we'll be ranking all of our episodes of the Bad Batch season 2. I can already spoil this for you. Truth and Consequences number 2, Clone Conspiracy number 1. Only reason Clone Conspiracy number 1 is number 1 because I like it's a bit like noir mystery kind of type of tone to it. That Truth and Consequences kind of abandons. And it doesn't. And there are benefits and consequences to that, and I'm not going to debate that. But the vibe that Clone Conspiracy has is just so special to me.
Also, this is not necessarily. I just want to point out this is not necessarily massively to Truth and Consequences' detriment, because it does this really well. But this is not the first time Palpatine has pulled the exact move. I think multiple times in the Clone Wars. I feel like
at least once, better, honestly.
At least once though, like he pulls that exact move where like they bring some evidence to light, or they think the good guys get a big win, the good senators get a big win, and then Palpatine immediately just like flips it around and does what he was going to do anyway.
I guess the reason why it's so interesting to me this time is because Palpatine doesn't have to hide anymore. Yeah. He's not pretending to be the kindly old man chancellor. Like, I think people still think he's a good man, but he is full on robed
in McDermott rumbling voice.
And by the way, shout out to that man who could sell anything, but makes this sound sexy.
Also, but I guess that leads me to one final question. How the hell are these senators so bought into Palpatine's mission when he wears a black cloak and literally sounds, I mean, he sounds evil. Like, I
mean, yes, but come on. But there's that I would point you to the line from Sith.
The attempt on my life.
That's true,
has left me scarred and deformed. But I assure you, my resolve has never been stronger.
I guess he wasn't really lying about that.
Wasn't. So he's basically saying right there, I look disgusting, I know that, but I'm still the same guy.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's not wrong. He's still the same guy.
The mask has just come off.
Yeah, he's still the same absolutely shitty, root of all evil guy. But I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we are going to actually, in contrast to what I was saying earlier, we're actually going to be taking a little break. We're going to be doing the special episode. I think Jack and I both decided it's going to be Star Wars Opinions 4. We're continuing with that series. And then we are actually, I will also say that we are unfortunately going to be doing that over Zoom. So the in-person sessions are going to have to end for now, unfortunately.
They will be back?
They will be back, though. And after that episode, after Opinions 4, Star Wars in the Galaxy will be going on a 1-week break, because I'm going to be away. But we'll be returning on that week, and then I think the next week we'll have an episode, but I believe the week after that we won't, because of another In a Galaxy event that I haven't yet announced yet, but it will be very fun. In the meantime, though, you can follow us on Twitter at In a Galaxy Pod, Instagram at Star Wars in the Galaxy. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. We will be there. If we're not, email us swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Watch our trivia show at In a Galaxy Trivia on Twitter and on our YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at UchiFan327. And in the meantime, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.